JANNELLY PEREZ.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I will now talk to you in Spanish, but hopefully I will address you in English. Today, I want to share with you my personal story so that I can convey the message that I would like to share with this quick intervention. Youth for Human Rights Guatemala has been active since 2017, and I only met it in 2020. And it was given a professional exercise that was prompted by my university as part of my curriculum training. It was back then when they required that I was able to teach in the far apart communities and address them in XYZ topic. I was in the victim care unit, which is where my story really begins. So they would ask me to just work on these topics, focusing on two areas of work, which is the current one we're on, working with Youth for Human Rights Guatemala, which is a prevention department, and then a reactive zone, which is to work after the restorative issues dealing with their human rights. I find that really beautiful. That has really transformed my life. And it's funny because the workshops were for others, but I really believe that those workshops transformed me and they healed me. Because, as women anywhere in the world, we are really just vulnerable. And I just didn't understand that. To be honest, I didn't understand that we were a vulnerable position because we've all been victims of violence. So these processes also healed me. And let me share how. It was within these processes that they told me to share some materials. I had no money to print this or to buy this. And by getting in touch with Youth for Human Rights back then, we filed in for our request to share the material because the material is free and you did not turn your back on me. I told Leah and Javier, they were very aware that I needed these materials and they brought it to me so that I could take it to these communities. Where I was doing this exercise was a different situation. They needed that I took on processes that were binded to emotional health or mental health. And it was a major challenge to mix mental health and human rights, but this was possible. So this was just a little tiny program that was definitely worked at San Lucas, Ecatepec, which was a really tiny, small place. I was really afraid. I did not feel safe enough that I could deliver this process successfully. And I think that sometimes that's what limits us. I think we're just afraid and we believe that it might not work. And that's only in our heads. Based on that, as I was very active in Youth for Human Rights, what we did, or I don't know if you still are, but you will giving us an award with activism levels. So silver, bronze, and golden. And I have my little medal here. I was given the golden one in July 2022. That was my first stage. And I was just volunteering and I never really thought that this is where I could be here to do with you, sharing with you. But as we let go of our fears, we actually reach further. And that is my message to you. As a result, I started in a very small town, really vulnerable people. I think it would say 15 to 18 attendees. And as of today, we are working at a department level, at a national level, and on educational processes on schools across the nation, and with women who have been survivors of violence. We have now allied ourselves with other networks and other institutions like the Justice Open Table, the Interinstitutional Network for Protection of Violence Victims, and we also work with the Latin American Community on Human Rights for vulnerable and indigenous and Afro-descendant individuals, as well as other networks that work at a national level, whose objective is that on July 30, we get to work hand in hand with the ESBET, which is against violence and sexual survivors in Guatemala. and our Blue Heart campaign, which is a United Nations sponsored program where we work on human rights in schools in order to promote human trafficking. I think that's my time. I have so much more to share, but I haven't done this by myself. There are so many hands behind me, and I couldn't go to all Guatemala by myself, and I will just mention them because I really owe them that much on the volunteer from Guatemala. Leah, Javier, Susan, Maddie, Liz, Carla, and Lorena, and Gaby Mayen. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting somebody like Gustavo or somebody else. And I think I've mentioned Liz, but the volunteers are active. Back then, we were only 3 volunteers, and this year we are awarding 13 people that they got their golden level in 2023. And I believe that we're going to be growing and keep growing, and we're going to be awarding the golden award to a lot of activists. They are always reaching out. And what I would like to be my closing statement is sometimes you need to start alone. And sometimes you're going to start alone and with fear, because you will face situations that we believe are impossible. But something, that little thingy, is the seed that one day will grow. So that's my message. Please start. If that's you, if you are a leader in your community or in your countries and you need to start alone. Because that's what a leader would do. They will just take on action and then inspire others, and we will drag that back alone. When they see us surpass, they will come in and lend the shoulder. So definitely just start. That's my message to you from Guatemala to the world. Hopefully you can continue to follow us online. Thank you so much.